Thank you, Siddiq. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, fine, fine. It's fine,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you. Appreciate it. So thank you for this wonderful, albeit it's a very lengthy introduction. So it's a, anyway, thank you. It's a pleasure. I feel so happy to be with you all today. And I want to share some of my experiences. So what I'm going to do, or what I want to share today is basically what I would have shared myself 20, 25 years ago when I was a student, what could have benefited me, right? I think so this is more of my nostalgic moments to share some of my, based on my experience, what I should have told myself 20, 25 years ago. So I think it's something that I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm not sure about you all, but I think I'm going to enjoy myself. And I think so it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure in sharing with you all this today. So I've taught over probably 5,000, close to 4,000 to 5,000 students in my career. And I've started I had my own tuition center back in India when I was doing my bachelor's degree, when I was doing my BSc mathematics. And then I've taught all kinds of students, even back in India, whether it's a CBSE or a state board. I've taught them. And I've taught them rich kids where I got money, and the kids who are not wealthy enough where I taught them for free. And I also taught all kind of backgrounds, very smart kids, wonderful kids who got into top schools. Also, I've taught very struggling students. So I just want to share some of these things with me. And I also had the experience or the pleasure, as Brother Siddiq was mentioning earlier, I had the pleasure of teaching pretty much everybody across the continent. I've taught in various places. I pretty much taught everybody. If you think of a white, black, brown, yellow, whatever you want to call them, however you want to call them, irrespective of the colors, irrespective of their backgrounds, irrespective of their curriculum, I've taught them. Speaking about curriculum, I've also had the opportunity to assess and review many curriculums across the world. And so it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here sharing my experiences with you all today, and with the hope that you all one day become something that you can be proud of yourself. So before I get into my topic, right? Before I get into my topic, let's. So this is what I'm going to share today, right? So if you're here today, my goal or my objective today is to, if you're a student who are scoring in the 30s, what can you do, especially if you're a 10th or 12th standard? In a moment, I'll get back to it. What can you do that can get to 70 in the next 60 days, right? If you're usually scoring 50, what should be the strategy so that will get you to 80 in the next 60 days, right? If you're scoring the 70s, what should be your strategy to get you to 90? If you're scoring the 80s, what should be your strategies to get you 95, right? As you can see, if you're scoring 30, it's easy to get to 70 in the 60 days. But if you're scoring 80, it's not going to be, you won't be able to make that jump from 80 to 100. It requires a task, right? So that is my goal today, right? So again, irrespective of which spectrum you're at, the goal is if you are going to follow the strategies that I'm going to share with you today, that will get you to those scores, right? As a matter of fact, I'm not going to ask you to do many things. I'm going to ask you not to do many things, right? All I'm going to ask you is to don't do this, right? Yeah, then actually that will get you to the score. So you're going to only have to do very few many things, and then don't have to do a whole lot of things, and that will get you to the score that whatever you're desiring, right? So that is what my objective is to share with you all today. So what is today's agenda, right? The agenda, I think it's about an hour and a half. I think it was given an hour and a half. Probably I won't spend that much of a time unless you have questions for me. So I think as Brother Siddiq was mentioning earlier, the way that's going to be, I'm going to talk about 45 minutes to an hour, but not too long. And I don't want to bore you. It's a Saturday. I get that, right? And then we'll have a Q&A. Slide too small to view, sir. I'm not following. Is it too small to see?
No, Jaffar. It's fine actually. It's fine.
It's fine. Okay.
Uh,
So I think my recommendation, if again, I think probably I should have mentioned this earlier. If possible, I don't know. I understand not all of have resources. My recommendation is that if possible, this is best to be viewed in the computer if you can, or at least in the tablet. But if you're using a phone, I suppose if you use the portrait rather than a portrait mode, if you use the maybe a landscape mode, I think you might see better. But otherwise, maybe I'm hoping that you will be able to like zoom in and so on. Right. So, sir, can you show the picture? What do you mean picture?
Professor, you can continue the session. I'll take care of
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. So I'll let you. I'll let you take care of it, Siddiq.
continue the
Appreciate it. Thank you.
continue
All
the
right.
classes. I'll take care of all the things.
All right, wonderful. So anyway, so the question is, how do we approach the academics? How do we approach the, so the agenda today is to how do we approach the, what is our attitude, right? What is our attitude should be in approaching the academics of the education? And then how do we study? How do we learn? How to prep for the exam and what to do prior to the exam and how to ace, how to excel, how to do wonderful in the exam, right? That is my agenda. And I'm going to share and show some of the tips that helped my those things that I've learned myself and things that I've learned from hundreds of students who do very well every single semester, right? These are things that I've observed from them. And usually at the end of the semester, I ask my students a survey, right? Hey, well, what is your attitude, right? What are the things that you do that makes you do so well on the exam, right? So I do a survey every single semester. So these are the things that are result from those surveys. So I thought I'll share with you, right? That is pretty much is the agenda today. Now, before I get to anything, but we need to understand one important thing. That is the academic success, right? What is the academic success? When we say academic success, all we care about is the exam score, right? All we care about is the exam score, but actually exam score doesn't come by itself, right? The goal is to learn. To learn, you're going to study. So the study gives you the learning, and the learning, how well you learn, that gives you the score on the exam, right? But at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, that's one of the some people say, as my students say, evil things in academic enterprise is that the exam score, people are judged, people are valued, people are appreciated based on the score, right? Not necessarily how much they learn, not necessarily how much they study. So the very important aspect is the exam score. What sets you apart, right? Whether you're an IAS, whether you're going to be a doctor, or whether you're going to be someone who's going to be working as a clerk, right? That's what sets you apart in any interview. If you go to any interview, unfortunately, what sets you apart is your exam score, right? So our goal is to, how do we study? What are the things that what are the ways in which we can study that can help us to learn better? How do we make use of the learning that we have, the learning that we learned to do well in the exam, right? To ace the exam is for this opportunity right here. That is what I'm going to get. I'm going to share some of my tips on that today. So before I get to this, these tips, right? We need to break some of these academic myths, right? We need to break some of these academic myths. So let me break down some of these academic myths that we have been fed into for many times. I think, so some of the academic myths, right? When you ask a student, when I ask somebody, hey, why you're not doing well, right? These are my usual responses, right? These are my usual responses. They say, I don't have resources, right? I'm not rich, I can't afford to go to a tuition center. I can't afford to go to like a private school. I can't afford to go to, well-to-do school. I don't have good teachers, right? My school is not that great. My cousin goes to this school, or my peers goes to that school. My neighbors going this, doing that, and their parents are very well educated, right? My siblings are educated. My dad has a master's degree, or his dad has a master's degree. I don't have anything like this, so I don't have a help. So we put ourselves in the bin saying, hey, I don't do this. I can't do this. It's very hard for me because I don't have resources. These are simple excuses, ladies and gentlemen. These are just excuses to fail ourselves, right? That may not be, that is a myth. You don't need to be rich to do well in the studies. You don't need to have parents with the PhDs to do well in your studies. As a matter of fact, I know parents who have PhDs, right? All my colleagues that have PhDs, their sons did not do well. Their sons are not doing well. Their daughters are not doing well. They are struggling themselves, right? Just because I know some people where husband and wife both are professors, where their kids are not doing very well. So you don't have to have PhD parents to do well in your studies. That is not necessarily, that's a myth, right? That people fed into you. Don't believe that. And you don't have to go to a great school. You don't have to go to like a wonderful school. I mean, take a look at the current excellence in US, right? For example, I'm sure you all know this. If you look at the Microsoft, right? The guy who runs the Microsoft is somebody from India. He went through the Indian education system, right? Supposedly US education system is the best, right? But if you look at the Apple, if you look at the Microsoft, if you look at the Google, right? If you look at all the second level, even in Twitter's, even in Apple, if you look at the second level executives, they're all some sort of have connections to India or China or Europe. Not many Europeans, Europe or Middle East. So you don't need to have, my school don't have a great curriculum, I need to go to CBSE, that's the only way I can become an IAS, IPS or a judge. No, that is a complete myth. But before I go there, right, I just want to make sure you're all paying attention to me. So I'm going to show you a quick poll to see what you guys are, right? Where you are, where you fall into these categories. So I have a quick poll, right? I want to see what is your parents' education is. Then I'm going to show. So I'm going to launch a poll. I'm going to launch a poll to get to know you better, right? And I'm going to share some of the things that I want to share afterwards. So here, I'm going to launch the poll in 3, 2, 1. Answer the question. It's going to ask you about your parents' education, right? So the poll is launched. You will see the poll, right? Just if you could answer, what your parents' education, they have IAS, IPS, civil service, judge, PhDs, or they have master's degree or bachelor's degree, right? High school education, below high school education. Well, my parents didn't even go to elementary education. You have a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Come on, only 11 of you so far have answered the questions. Wake up. I know it's late in the evening, right? Wake up. You can do it.
The polls, got initiated. So we are requesting, everyone to, answer in the poll.
Come on. You can do it. It's only 19 people. 43 people don't want to be successful, huh? You don't want to do things that needs to be done. You can do it. Yes, you can. Do you have the can-do attitude? Come on. 25. I'm still missing 80.
Sorry, if you're unable to join this Zoom meeting, we have a YouTube live link, so I can share with you. So that you can share this link to you. Those are you're unable to join it. Okay, so I'll share you. I'll share you this.
Okay, I'm still waiting from 13 of you. Come on, you can do it. Don't waste others' time. It's not fair.
So the same program, live telecasted in the Wisdom Kalpi YouTube channel. I have shared the links to you, so you can give this link to the those who unable to join the Zoom. Okay, so. Yeah, the survey is only for students. Yeah, I think pretty much.
It's done,
Professor. Yeah, mostly we can close and continue.
Okay, wonderful. All right, wonderful. So I'm going to close the poll. I'm going to close the poll, and still 12 of you did not do it. I don't know why, but I'm going to end the poll in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, cool. So it seems, let me share the poll, right? Just so you can see the results. So those are the results. We have 14% are doing well, and we have about 18% whose parents have masters, bachelor's, high school, right? Wonderful. So now let me ask you this question back to you, right? By the way, I have a PhD in mathematics, and I did my PhD in Mississippi State University in the United States, and I did my master's degree in IIT Madras, right? And let me ask you, let me make you guess, right? What do you think is my parents' education? Right? I'm going to ask you this
You
question.
can put the chat in the.
No, I have a poll. I have a poll.
So you have a poll. Okay.
Okay, I have a poll. So hold on. I'm just pulling up my poll. I need to stop share. This. I'm going to launch a poll. It's about my parents, right? What do you think of my parents' education, right? What do you think of my parents' education? The poll is on. What do you think? You know, I have my brother has a master's degree and he's doing an MBA. He works at one of the multinational companies, right? And I have a PhD, and my another brother is an entrepreneur who's doing very well. What do you think? All right, I'll give you 30 more seconds, then I'll end the poll. I'm a teacher. I like to have an active participation, right? Active participation is very important. Passive participation doesn't benefit us very well. All right, I'll end the poll. I think 26 of us have done that. I'll end the poll. Wonderful. Let me end the poll. Let me share the results. So then let me quickly say, so I think only 14, right? My 14%, 14, I would say only about 1/3 of us got it correct, right? My dad's education is 8th grade, right? He's only 8th standard, right? He didn't study beyond 8th standard. My mom went to school up to the third standard. So my mom is a 3rd standard student. My dad is a my dad is a 8th standard student. That's all it is, right? So if you think you need to have a PhD or a master's or bachelor's, someone need to go to school, college and have a degree, that is not necessary to reach your high in your career, right? You don't have to do that. That's a myth. That's completely a myth, right? Now, I think as probably I'll do a few more polls, but I think I don't want to spend too much time on the poll. Maybe I'll ask the poll a little later, right? My parents have a hard time financially, right? And I was raised with my grandmother when I was 1.5 years old all the way until when I was almost like 7 years old, right? So for about until I was 7 years old, pretty much I was raised by my grandmother. Not even I did not have my granddad passed away well before I was born. So my grandmother raised me because my parents couldn't afford to raise me, right? That is the truth. So we were not well-to-do families. And on top of that, as Brother Siddiq was saying earlier today, I went to a school when my elementary education, it was what we call Urachi Ondriya Tuvakapalli, right? Urachi Ondriya Tuvakapalli, that basically means is like for 12, 15 small villages, there's one school, and there are only two teachers, right? There's only one building, there are only 2 teachers. One corner of the school has like a first grade students in the first standard students in one line, second grade students in the second line, 3rd grade students in the 3rd line. There's only one teacher. half the time you don't know if the teacher is teaching to the first grade, second grade, or third grade. And then you have the same teacher for the fourth and the fifth grade, who has the same board in other corner of the building, right? That's the kind of the school that I went to. So therefore, if I can do PhD in the United States without any money, if I can do PhD in the United States with my parents have no education, with pretty much no resources, I don't know what to say. Every one of you here are blessed. Almighty has blessed you with plenty of resources. If I can do this, you should do it. You can do better than me. You have better parents. You have better resources. You have computer today, right? When I went to, I don't want to say things, but I think I'll say this to you quickly. When I went to school, 9th and 10th grade, I could not afford to have slippers. I could not afford to have shoes. Not shoes. I'm not talking about the shoes. When I say shoes, what I meant by is that I walk barefoot until when I was 10th grade. When I went to 11th and 12th grade, that's the only time I was able to get a slipper, right? Not a shoe, just able to get a slipper. I have to take a bus. I have to take a bus to go to the 9th and 10th grade, but I did not have a shoe, right? That was my situation. I'm sure every one of you have shoes from the elementary education, right? So therefore, you are all very well resourced. So it's a myth to say, I don't have resources. It's a myth to say, my parents are not educated. It's a myth to say, oh, I don't have a good teachers. I don't have a good school. That is, you're setting yourself for a failure. I want you to keep that in your mind, right? Let's take a look at another myth, right? There's another myth now, socially, right? We blame on the others, right? Then we blame ourselves. Why we are not doing well? Then we blame ourselves, right? What do we blame ourselves? We say, well, I'm not good at studies. I don't do well, in the exams. I really do. I can study well, I can learn well, but I don't do well in exams. I'm not good at studies, right? Oh, my brother is not good at studies. It runs in the family. Oh, I usually, score very low compared to my friends, right? This is another myth. This is another myth. So let me share this with you again, right? I think Brother Siddiq was saying earlier today that I was a topper in IIT. Yes, that is true. I got a 4th grade in the GATE of the entire India. Yes, that is true. And I got a 4.0 GPA in my PhD. Every single one of the 5 years, for the 5 years in my PhD, every single one of the exam, I pretty much got a 90 and above, or 80 and above. Now, 95 and above. In every son of them, my GPA was like 4.0 over 4.0, right? But let me then ask you one other question, right? And then not only that one, one of my peer in my IIT Madras, right? It's not easy to get into IIT Madras, right? Not many state board kids go to the IIT Madras. When I went to IIT Madras, there are about I think 28 of us were there. Out of those 28 people, there's only, I think, 5 or 6 people from the state board. Pretty much everybody else was private school, CBSE, private school, those kind of kids, right? About 6 or 8, I think 6 kids, I would say 6 or 4 or 8 kids are the from the private school. And from the minority side, there were only I think 3 kids from the minorities. So anyway, and I did very well. The very first semester, I was a topper. There was one of my friends. He's a nice guy, very smart guy, very hardworking guy. He's actually the topper in the entire Kerala. He was a topper in his bachelor's in the entire Kerala, in Jawaharlal Nehru University, in his bachelor's degree. I scored much better than him. I did very well then compared to him, right? So then let me ask you this question to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind. How much you think I got? I forget about other subjects. My PhD is in math. My bachelor's degree is in math. My master's degree in IIT Madras was math, and I got the grade. I got into in the GATE 4th rank. That is in math, right? What do you think my score in my 12th grade is, right? Let's see if you can guess it, right? My score. I wanted to guess my score, right? I'm going to open the poll again. I'm going to open the poll in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Please go ahead and answer the poll. All right, here's the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, poll is there. Can you guess my score in my 12th grade? I have 4.0 GPA in my PhD. I have pretty much the topper in IIT Madras, a 4th rank in the GATE in the entire India. And I was a topper in my bachelor's degree in New College, Chennai.
Professor, I will take care all the chats. Okay, so you can, continue the session. So I'll take care all the chats in few minutes. Okay.
Wonderful.
Just focus on me. I think poll is initiated. I have seen the poll. Okay, so please.
All right, and the poll is there. I think we have about 31 of you. Very good. I think now we have higher participation, right? It takes, third time's the charm, right? Third time's the charm. Now we have more response, more responses. All right, wonderful. Let me end the poll in 3, 2, 1. Let me share the result. I'll say only 44% of you are correct. Which 44%? There are two 44%, 90% one and the 50% one. I got a 49, to be precise. I got a 49.5% in my 12th math, right? When I did my 12th math, my score was 99 out of 200. So you wonder, the kid who have no money, who have parents are not educated, right? Came from a Tamil medium school, right? And didn't even have resources to get the chapel, right? So slippers, right? How the heck did this guy, got into like IIT Madras, right? How did he do that, right? That is because that is the attitude, ladies and gentlemen. So don't tell me I'm not good at studies. Don't tell me I don't do well in exams. I did not do well exams in the 12th grade. But I did in 3 years, right? In 4 years, I should say. In 4 years, I turned around and I changed myself. If I can do that with no money, with no education, no support from parents, right? And then you can do. You have wonderful, loving parents. They dedicate all their life for your education. They take care of you. Look at you, what they have done to you, right? So definitely you can do that. So therefore, do not compare yourself and don't give excuses not to do well, right? Don't give excuses not to do well. You can, no matter where you are today, if you're going to follow what I'm going to ask you to do, right? What I'm going to ask you to do, as a matter of fact, I'm going to ask you not to do things, right? That you can do well. You wonder why I changed my, how a kid from 50% in the 12th grade to a topper in the bachelor's degree, right? By the way, in my classes, there were kids, ladies and gentlemen. There were kids who got a 200 out of 200. Let me tell you, I don't have time to share another story. Maybe I'll have another story. I got kicked out of my bachelor's degree the very first day. Because the teacher asked my score. I told him the score. He's like, "You're not fit for this. I don't know why they give you admission for people like you." He kicked me out the very first day. I got the highest score in his exam the very same year. And the very same year, I got the highest score. He was proud of me. But anyway, so that's a different story. Maybe I'll share with you maybe in the future and maybe another sessions in the future. But then how do I change? So by the way, you should know, between the 12th and my college degree, I worked 1 whole year for about $9 per month, right? For about $9 per month, right? I make a lot more today for probably on an hour basis, right? But that's what I was making. So that's what taught me my life. The 1 whole year after my 12th grade, I worked for a year. That taught me what my life is. Then I realized studying is much more easier than working in a very meager job, right? My life is my choice. Right? My life is in my hand. I don't want to put my education, my life, my future in someone else's hand, right? I need to uplift my family. I need to uplift myself, right? I need to take care of my kids. I need to take care of my future generations, right? I have only one life. I want to have a quality life, a life that brings happiness. I don't want to live a life that is being dictated by somebody else. I'm done with this. After one whole year of working from the 12th grade, I said, I'm done with this. I can't do this. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to change myself. I'm going to turn around because my life is in my hand. I don't care what others says about me. I know about me and I can do well, and it's not a big deal. And I worked hard day and night. I worked harder day and night, and that's what made me who I am today. Otherwise, if I'm not where I am today, if I did not change myself where I was today, if I'm giving the excuses to myself, oh, my parents don't do this, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have that, and so on, right? I don't have this, I don't have that, and so on. I'll be sitting somewhere in a faraway corner of a village, probably plowing, doing some farming, or maybe working in a shop where I would make like probably, $500, maybe, I don't know, maybe $500, maybe too much, maybe $200 a month or $400 a month, because I've decided to change myself. I decided, no, these are all excuses. These are things that made me, these are things that would not help me. These are things that would not benefit me in my life. Let me pick up the things that would help me. Let me pick up the things that would benefit me so that I can get well ahead. That's what changed me. So again, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you this. You have only one life. You only live once. They say YOLO, right? You live only once. You have only one life, and you have a choice. Especially if you're a 40, you don't have a choice. If you're 45, you don't have a choice. If you're 35, you don't have a choice. If you're 18, you do have a choice. If you're 15, you do have a choice. The life ahead of you is in your hands. You can change it. If you have the attitude, yes, you can, right? You need to have this winning attitude. So let's get to this winning attitude and growth mindset. So you need to have this attitude before you even go to study. Because in the study, you're going to see a lot of frustrations. You're going to see a lot of, embarrassments. You're going to see a lot of hardships, right? If you don't have the winning attitude, if you don't have the growth mindset, you can't do it. So what do you mean by the winning? What do I mean by the winning attitude? Before I get to the winning attitude, let me tell you what we feel, right? We have this mentality. Well, I don't do well in exams. I only scored 50% on this first exam. I only scored 25% on the second exam. That's what we think, right? No, that is, there are two types of mindsets. One is a fixed mindset. The other one is a growth mindset. What is the fixed mindset? The mindset feels like this is what I am. Yes, at 50 years old, yes, you are who you are. You're not going to change from 50 to 60 years old. You can change yourself. There are people who have done that, right? Maybe when you're 60, I understand that there's not a whole lot of things that you can do. I get that, right? When you're 40, when you're 45, yes, you're not going to change a whole lot of things. I get that, right? But when you're 15, the life ahead of you is you can change. You can go from someone who makes a 30% on the exam to 80%, even 100% on the exam, right? If you have the attitude, you have the growth mindset, you can do that, right? You can do that. So you need to have this growth mindset. It doesn't matter where you are today. You can choose your life 3 years from now. You can choose your life 7 years from now, 10 years from now. The life is in your hand. You need to have the growth mindset. They say in English, they say nature and nurture. Nature and nurture. Nature is, yes, there are some good, wonderful students. I have a student in my class. I have a student in my bachelor's degree. He got a 200 out of 200 in his 12th grade, right? And you give him something to him, he will just go through like a couple of pages, right? He'll just go through a couple of pages, like 3-4 minutes. He will know everything. No way I can do that, right? I have to read. If it's a 2 pages thing, I have to read like three, four times. But that is what the growth mindset is, right? So you don't compare yourself with the others. You need to compare yourself with you. So how do we go from 80%, like 30% to a 70%, or or 70% to a 90%, right? You need to compare yourself. I'll get back to the strategy. You are you, right? You are you. You need to compare yourself. You need to have the winning attitude. So what is this winning attitude, right? So first of all, to get the winning attitude, you need to understand you need to change your general attitude towards your education. If you don't change it, you won't be able to get back to it. So what do I mean by that? Just because thanks to all those wonderful activists, thanks to all those wonderful politicians, right? The education has come to us almost at a free of cost, right? Our previous generations did not do well, right? But education for us is pretty much just free, right? Anybody who was born in this world pretty much now have an access to it. That does not mean it's cheap. Education is very, very expensive. It took centuries to get to where we are today, right? You need to treat your education, the access to education like a Ferrari, not like a, I don't know how many of you know Ferrari. Ferrari is a very expensive car, right? Very, very expensive car. That's like, $200,000 to $300,000, maybe, $500,000. So there are some that are probably millions of dollars of Ferrari cars. You need to treat your education. You need to value your education like it's a Ferrari, not like 100 rupees or 200 rupees old bicycle, where if someone gives you a Ferrari car, but someone gives you a very expensive thing, right? You take care of them very well, right? You make sure there are no scratches. You make sure nobody comes nearby. You clean them every single day. You keep it impeccable, right? On the other hand, let's just say you have a 100 rupees or 200 rupees bicycle that you got from your father's friends, sons, cousins, sisters, brother, right? It's only 200 rupees. I can afford to buy next time. It's not a big deal, right? If there are scratches, you don't care. If it falls off, you don't care. If it breaks, you don't care. You don't just because you don't feel the value of it. It's only $200, right? You don't feel the value of it. You don't want to have that. You don't want to treat your education like that, right? Your education can change you, from where you are to where you want to be. If you don't have a good education, right? You might be going in car today, but your future generation might end up having to take a public shuttle, right? You may not even have access to the public shuttle at the time. So the education can change. I'll give you a quick example of how education can change. I know I'm running short of time. So let me be careful here. There is a gentleman, I don't know how many of you know, in India, there's something called Murugan Idli Kadai, right? This gentleman, now he makes millions, right? He has his Murugan Idli Kadai. It's basically, I don't know, for those who from South India knows this, right? Idli Kadai is a idli, it's a rice cake, right? It's rice cake idli. And this, all he does is like a restaurant. His mom, and now he makes like millions. He has like a shop or a franchise in 4 or 5, pretty much all continents in the world. His mom used to be mom used to be just like a idli, she was selling idli on the side, and she was making 100 to 200 rupees, right, on the side. And the son, he studied, he has an IIM from I think IIM from one of the top institutes in India, right? And within 10-15 years, same shop, the same field, the same restaurant, the same idli. In 15 years, the mom was making 100 to 200 rupees a day. He just, because of his education, because of his strategy, because of his marketing strategy, he was able to make in 20 years from 100 rupees a day into lakhs and lakhs in a day. That's because of purely in education, right? That's because of purely in education. So you can change your life, right? You can change your life. You can change your life by doing the education, right? And you want to do some service to the society, please take care of yourself and study well, right? Remember, next generation depends on you. And I know many families, they did very well. Their parents did not focus on their kids' education. Kids did not do well, and then the future generation messed up, right? They are struggling big time, right? The people who used to have a very luxurious life are now struggling because their kids did not do well, right? So you need to understand education is a gift. Education is a very precious gift, right? That is only given to a human being. If you treat it like a precious gift, your attitude should be that you treat them like a Ferraris, right? You don't treat them like a 100 rupees, like a 200 rupees bicycle. So you treat it like a precious gift. And people have, hundreds and hundreds of people have really worked, thousands of people, politicians and social activists have worked hard to make sure everyone has access to this precious gift. So you need to understand that first, right? The second attitude, the winning attitude, right? Strategy, right? You need to have a discipline. One of my student in my calculus, right? He writes it down in his binder that says discipline equals freedom. I asked him, hey, what's going on? What do you mean by discipline equals freedom? He says, sir, Professor Jaffar, they call me Jaffar, by the way, thanks to movie Aladdin, they call me Jaffar. He says, Professor Jaffar, when I have the discipline When I'm doing things that I need to do, no one is behind me. I get to do what I want to do. When I am behind, when I am not focused, when I'm not disciplined enough to do things that needs to be done, do things that has to be done, then my parents are behind me. They tell you, oh, hey, are you studying? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? Right? People come and ask me. But when I do my things, when I take care of things that I'm supposed to take care, my life is, I'm free. I have the absolute freedom. That is absolutely true, right? I'm sure many of you had this experience. If your friend is getting 100, right, pretty much 90 and 95, teachers don't care about that friend. He's like, oh, he's doing very well. If he's even a little bit mischievous, right? If he plays something here and there, if he does not do one or two homeworks, if he misses one or two things, oh, he's a good kid. He's a wonderful kid. He just messed up. He's very disciplined. Maybe something happened. Maybe he's sick. The teachers would give him or give her the excuses of why he did not do well in that particular assignment. On the other hand, let's just say someone who is not, who's not doing very well, is only making 50s, 60s, even accidentally, let's just say you tell your teachers, I got sick, they think that this kid is lying all the time. Why he has the freedom to do what he wants, and why you don't have the freedom that you don't have? The reason, because he's disciplined. Right? Parents don't care. In my case, again, I don't want to say too much about myself, but in my case, my parents are not well educated, right? So what they did, they never, not only in my case, even my brother's case, they never asked a single question. We had the absolute freedom to do what we want to do because they know we were doing well. My parents never asked me how am I doing in the school. My parents never asked me how did I score on this exam. The only time my parents would get to know my score or how am I doing in the school is when they sign the report cards. Even that time, they hardly ask us any question. They say, no, we can play whatever we want to play. No, we can do whatever we want to do, because they know we are disciplined enough. They trust us enough that my kid are disciplined enough. I can trust them. They will do well. They will not get into trouble. They will never become a trouble. Because we are disciplined, we had the absolute freedom to do whatever I want to do. I chose to do IIT. I chose to do PhD in the United States. I chose mathematics, right? My parents never said, I chose the school, right? I chose the colleges, right? My parents never said anything. They always give the absolute freedom to do what I want to do because they know we are disciplined, right? So if you really want a freedom, right, then you need to have the discipline. If you do what you want to do, don't let others dictate or order you, right? For that, you need to have that discipline. The third thing, here's this attitude, right? This is the strategy. This is what very, very important. This is that winning attitude that I was sharing with you guys earlier. I know you are all like, come on, can we get to this? Can we get to the strategy? I'll get back to the strategy. But if you don't understand this, my strategy is not going to work, right? So I want you all to emphasize on these strategies. Number one, you need to know what you want in your life, right? Number two, you need to know what you need to do to get to what you want to do, right? What you will do that will get you what you want to do. Number three, you should know what you should not do, what you will not do, what you will never do, that will hinder, that will be an obstacle to your progress. If you have a clarity on these things, your success, not only in education, not only in the exam, you will be successful in your life. Let's just say I want to be an IAS. You need to act like an IAS today. You can be, there's no switch that will turn you from after the bachelor's degree to become an IAS. There's no switch that goes from 0 to 1, right? You need to have the attitude. You need to have the working life, the lifestyle to be an IAS. You need to make a smart decisions like an IAS. You need to make a smart decision like a doctor. If you want to be a doctor, you need to think like a doctor. From now on, you need to be an entrepreneur. You want to do a business on your own, you got to think like a businessman from now on. That will only get you to the doctor. There is no switch where from today, I got I was getting 50 to 60 in the exams. all of a sudden tomorrow I'm a doctor. No, it's not going to happen. You need to, it's a gradual improvement, right? You need to act like the one today. They say fake it till you make it, right? You got to fake, like if you want to be an IAS, you want to be a judge, you want to be an IPS, you want to be a doctor, you want to be an engineer, you want to be a lawyer, you got to act one today, right? You got to have this attitude, right? You need to think like you need to think like a lawyer, you need to think like a doctor, you need to think like an IAS. That is what is going to get you there. So that means you need to have a clarity, right, on what are the things that you need to do, and you choose yourself. Those are things that you are going to do, right? And then you also need to know what you should not do, right? Let me give you an example. I think here's a strategy, right? Here's a strategy for the 10th and 12th grade students. Your life goal in the next 60 days should not be, I'm going to study well in my studies. That is not the goal. That is not the goal. The goal should be, if you're scoring 40s, if you're scoring in the 50s, right? Let's just say someone is scoring in the 60s, right? My goal, my precise goal, very precise goal is my goal is to get 95 in the next 60 days. That is my goal. That is my want, right? I'm going to go from 60 to 95, right? Now you have a goal that is measurable, because at every instance of the time, you know where you are. You know at which spectrum you are in to get to which to reach where you want to be. If you're making 60s, okay, you're moving ahead. If you went from 60 to 75, you're on the right track. Whatever you're doing is working. If you went from 65 to 55, you're going the wrong track. That is the goal that you can measure. That's number one. Number two, what will get you to from 60 to 95, right? Studying and learning, right? So you need to increase that, right? And you know what works for you, you know what doesn't work for you, right? So you need to, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes a day on math. Let's just say somebody is making 60 on the math, and then goal is to get to 95, right? Okay, I'm spending only 30 minutes a day, and that is not enough to, if I'm spending only 30 minutes a day, that's only going to get me to 60, right? Okay, let me increase it to 45 minutes. Let's see if that takes me to 70, right? That is the will. And then you need to have the willpower, not just the will. You need to have the willpower. I don't care what happens. I don't care if it's rainy. I don't care. There's a wonderful serial, wonderful movie, wonderful thing going on. I am going to spend my 45 minutes on math every single day, right? That is my willpower. No one is going to take that 45 minutes away from me. You need to have that willpower. You need to have that attitude. You need to have that. You need to have that that strong willpower in you, right? See, that gets you to from 60 to 75. That means it's working, right? And then you need to have, okay, what stops me from not able to spend enough time? Let's just say that you're spending too much time with your friends, right? So I'm going to, well, I'm not saying don't spend your time with your friends. I'm going to say limit it down. I'm going to talk to my friends rather than 3 hours a day. I'm going to limit it to 30 minutes a day, right? I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to watch too much of Facebook. I'm not going to get into too much of TikTok. I'm not going to get into too much of Twitter or whatever. I don't know, whatever you guys are using, TikTok, Snapchat. I don't know. My students are using these days, I think Snapchat more than Snapchat and TikTok more than YouTube and other things. So whatever the distraction in your life, you need to set it away, right? If you're watching a serial, if you're watching a movie, if you're watching, I don't know what is you up to, right? Go back and think about it. What have you done the past whole week? How much time you spent on the YouTube? How much time you spent on the talking to your friends? How much time you spent on, watching TikTok, right? Cut it down. As I told you before, I think Steve Jobs used to say, right? You all know Steve Jobs, right? He's the Apple owner. And by the way, Apple is the richest, the most valuable company in the world after the, I think after the, in the US, that is the most valuable company. I think that's the most valuable company in the world is the, what is it? Aramco. I think Aramco, Saudi Aramco. That's because of the oil. But the most valuable company, not based on the natural resources, is the Apple. And he's basically an orphan. Parents, gave him up for adoption. He came from pretty much from a no resources family, right? And this is what he says: saying no to 1,000. People think focus means saying yes to things they have got to focus on. No, that is not what it means at all. It means saying no to 100 other good ideas that there are. You have to pick carefully, right? He says he's actually proud of things that he hasn't done as the things that he had done, right? So innovation, not only innovation, success, right, is basically saying no to 1,000 things. When you get to say no to 1,000 things, that is what is going to make you focus on the one thing that you want to go from 60 to 95 on your math exam, right? You got to learn to say that, right? You have to learn to say no. So distraction is your number one enemy. You got to stay away from your distraction. Not only distraction, negativity is also is your enemy. You got to stay away from the negativity as well, right? So that is your that is the most important strategy in scoring high on your exams, right? So let me quickly recap what I have done so far. You need to have a goal. You need to know, again, I don't know you, you know you more than anybody else. You need to know what works for you, what doesn't work for you, right? You are unique, right? There's no one size fits all, right? There's no one size fits all. What works for your buddy, what works for your brother, what works for your sister, what works for your neighbor, what works for your best friend might not work for you, right? You got to know. I'll show you some of the learning techniques in a moment, right? You need to know what works for you. You need to be you. You need to do things that works for you, right? You need to do things that are for you, right? You need to learn to hack your brain. You need to learn what motivates your brain, right? You need to have that attitude. Do not compare yourself with somebody else. You need to compare yourself with yourself. If you're making 60 today, your goal should be what should I do to get to 75 next week? What should I do to get to, maybe if not 75 next week, 70, 65 next week? What I should do that will get me to 85 3 weeks from now, right? So you need to be you. You need to know what works for you. You need to know what you need to know your triggering points. You need to know things that can easily trigger you, whether it's anger, whether it's happy, whether it's sad, right? You need to be you and then work with you. You need to learn to work with you, right? That's the most important thing. That's the general attitude, right? Now you have the, let's just say, winning attitude, right? You know what to do, you know what not to do. You have the willpower. You are pretty much, have a strong willpower. You say, I'm going to avoid this. I'm going to only do this, right? I'm going to spend 45 minutes on every single day math, right? That is not just enough. Now you have the willpower. Now you need to have a plan, right? As they say, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail, right? You need to have a good working plan every single day. You have to incorporate in your life. Again, look at what you've done for the past whole week, right? You don't have to go back the past whole semester, whole year. Look at what you've done for the past whole week and see how much time you spent on each of those. When I say spend time, I'm talking about a quality time. I'm not talking about something like, opening a book and then watching a YouTube on the side and watching a TikTok on the side. That is not a quality time, right? That is not a quality time. When I say opening up a book, you only one thing that you have on you in front of you, right, is the book, is the studying, is the learning, nothing else. You're not watching what your mommy is doing, what your daddy is doing, what your sibling is doing, what the game is playing on the next, in front of the computer, what serial is going on. No, that is not a study plan. The study plan is focused 100%. Apply yourself to that situation, that 45 minutes, no distraction, nothing whatsoever. Whatever you need to do, you got to do that, right? You need to have a plan. And whatever the plan is, you got to change there's no one size fits all, right? The plan, you got to change. You got to look at your results. You got to change it, right? Now, the real success requires 100% of your effort. As I said, no distractions. It requires energy and it requires time. Nothing comes just like that, right? Nothing comes just like that. It requires not 80% on TikTok and 20% on the books. It doesn't work like that. 50% on the YouTube, 30% on the book, and then 10% or 20% is talking to your buddy. It doesn't work like that. You need to have the willpower. you need to have that strong dedication to do well, to apply yourself 100%. If you don't do that, it doesn't matter. It is not going to work, right? For example, let me just quickly say, if you apply 100% and work 1 hour, that is same as applying 20% working 5 hours. So it's not the amount of time that matters. It is the how you study in the amount of time that matters a lot more than that, right? So you need to have that. Now let's get to how to study, right? So studying, there are 6 layers, right? 6 layers of learning in studying. So what are those 6 layers? You know, there's a saying in Tamil. There's a saying in Tamil. Let me say it and then I'll explain to you in English in a moment. ஒரே மாதிரி இருப்பதெல்லாம் ஒரே மாதிரி இருந்தாலும் அந்த ஒரே மாதிரி எல்லாம் ஒரே மாதிரி இல்லை. So what does it mean is the following. Things that look similar, although they may appear similar, they are not necessarily the same, right? So what I'm trying to say, right? It's kind of a more confusing, right? So math is a subject, English is a subject, history is a subject, science is a subject. The way that you study for English is not going to work for math. The way that you approach the science is not going to work for the social science. The way you study the history is not going to work for the math. Each has its own strategy, right? So you need to understand which spectrum does it fall into, right? And by the way, for the 10th and 12th grade students, you're not going to go into the top 2 categories. You're going to mostly get into the bottom 4 categories. So let me quickly go through these categories, right? All these various levels, so you understand where to bin them, right? Where do you map them so you can kind of have an idea how to study. The very lower level of learning is the remembering. Remembering is everybody, not only it's not unique to humans, everybody can do. Animals can do, dogs can do, horses can do, cats can do, right? So you look at things over and over, you observe things over and over, right? And then you recollect, you identify. You know, when we were kids, we identify words, we identify the apple, we identify the oranges, right? So we repeat after them, we recite. Even the parrots recites, right? We list them, we name them, we memorize them, we repeat them, we state them, we duplicate them, we match them. These are lower order of critical thinking, right? These are lower order of critical thinking. The next level is we read something, right? We read something, now we understand, right? So if someone says 1 + 1 = 2, you see, you understand that, oh, when I add 1 and 1, that gives me 2. Oh, therefore, if I add 2 with 1, it will give me 3, right? No, that's trying to understand. And then let's just say you saw somebody throwing a ball, that ball bounces on the floor. That's, you see it, now you try it on your own, right? You demonstrate it. Oh, let me show you how to do it, right? And then you summarize it. You read something, then you summarize it. This is the second level of learning. If you're not good with if you're not focused, you won't be able to do well on the second level. This is where the problem comes in. The gaps comes in, right? Is this way, right? We all, the difference between someone who apply 100% on the studying and remembering and reading versus the 50% is the person who focus himself 100% on the reading, on the learning, on the listening will do well on understanding. If the person who only focuses 50% on the reading, 50% on the identifying, 50% on the listening, will not do well on the understanding. You may say, no, I spent 2 hours. Well, he spent only 1 hour. How does he do well? Because he's focused and you are not, right? So that is where that happens. Then the third level is applying. Now that you know, now that you read it, now that you listen to it, now that you see it, right? Then you have some sort of an understanding, you apply, right? You take an apple, you take another apple, you know that 1 + 1 = 2. So therefore, yes, so I'll have 2 apples. If you have 10 apples and you give it to you ate 2 of them, then 8 - 2 is, so 10 - 2 is 8. So you have 8 apples, right? That's like an applying, right? Applying, solving. This is very important for math. Remembering is not helpful for the math. Remembering is useful when you study history, when you study English, when you study local language. It's Tamil, Marathi, Hindi, Kannada, Telugu, right? Whatever that would be, whatever your language is, Gujarati, Punjabi, Oriya, Hindi, I don't know, right? So whatever your language is, right? But understanding and applying is important for science and math, right? That's very important. And then analyzing, right? Distinguish between the things. Differentiate things, organize our thoughts, organize things, examine things, distinguishing things, right? Those things that's a fourth level, right? Mostly for the 12th and 10th students, your most of the things are only going to fall between them. Your science is going to fall into analyze, science and math is going to fall into mostly analyze and apply, and your English, social studies, social science, history, they all fall into remember and understand. And then you evaluate them, and then you create them. Mostly the evaluation creation comes into like when you do a project, when you go to college, when you develop something, when you write a code, when you write a program, when you write a book, when you write, when you try to invent a device, when you're trying to come up with some new proposal, new cool ideas, right? Those are the things that comes into like a creation and evaluation, or you're trying to design something, right? But I think most of the things are really not needed for the 10th and 12th grade. Maybe another day we'll talk about it. So you need to know which the subjects falls into where, and you need to know appropriately. You need to study appropriately for that. For example, for the math, no matter how many times you do, how many times you study x squared plus 1 equal to 0, if you change that to x cubed plus 1, you should know how to solve the problem. If you don't know how to solve the problem, x cubed plus 1 equal to 0, there is no point in studying x squared plus 1 equal to 0 100 times, right? You won't be able to, it's not useful, right? So you need to know which categories it applies to, and then we need to go from there, right? Then in the studying, there is something called, so now you know the categories in which each the subjects are. Again, it might change people to people. Some of you might have very good remembering skills. Some of you might not have the very good remembering, or what we call memorizing skills. I'll quickly say, well, I'm running short of time. Let me quickly say on this, it's been already an hour. Let me quickly say on this, the brain is an amazing machine, right? When you store so much of information, every single thing that we see, every single thing that we hear, every single thing that we listen to, right? Our brain is learning, right? We are learning every single moment, whether knowingly, passively, actively, we are learning something, right? If you store too much of information in a single day, let's just say you watch a movie, let's just say you watch, some YouTube channel, some YouTube videos, right? That has a ton of information, right? You see a color, you see emotions, you see whole host of things that is passing through in your eyes. We are learning, right? The brain is taking, the eye is taking information. Our ears are taking information. It's going into our brain. It's organizing information, right? When you are putting so much of information in your brain, if 70% of them are garbage, the brain is going to have to store it somewhere, and then you take 20 to 30% on the important things that you think is not important. Not only you think is not important, you're thinking you're studying because your parents are asking you to study, is not going to be helpful for you, right? So if you focus, if you don't get yourself distracted, if you only focus on studies, right, then you're only storing information that you need. Then it's easier for your brain to recollect. If you have an 80% garbage, 20% some valuable things, the 20% things are going to be mixed with the garbage, right? So that is why focusing is important. So focusing is important, and not only focusing is important, you need to study regularly, right? You need to study regularly. I think the studies, there are ton of research have done on this one. Studying 30 minutes a day for 5 days, right, is much better than studying 5 hours. I mean, studying an hour a day for 6 days is much better than studying 6 continuous hours. When you study for 6 continuous hours, after an hour and a half, your brain is going to give up, right? Your brain is going to give up. It's not to focus on anything. You're studying for the sake of studying. You're not studying for the sake of learning. If you don't learn, you won't be able to make that into a score. So the compounding effect is important. Ideas, right? Learning is like a seed, right? Learning is like a seed. You need to nurture them. You need to let it grow. To do that, you got to study early. You got to study regularly. You got to study consistently. And now, how do I study, right? How do I study? You got to categorize things that comes to you easily, and you have to put yourself, you got to learn that first, right? And then you got to look into things that are not really easy, but relatively easy. And then you have to look into things that are relatively hard. And then there are some of them are really hard and challenging, but you can do it, but that requires a lot of time. There are some things that like, I give up, I don't want to do this, right? And that's okay. That's perfectly okay, right? If you ask me to do, I'm sure if you ask me to do a drawing, I'm sure I can learn drawing, but it'll take me probably 10,000 hours. I don't have 10,000 hours to learn drawing, and that is not needed for my job. So I don't need to do that, right? I'm not going to learn today unless my life depends on it. I'm not going to spend 10,000 hours for me to learn drawing, right? Learn painting. I don't think I can do it. I don't have time. There's no need for me to do that, right? So now you have to categorize them. So you got to go one at a time. So if you're making a 60%, that means you're doing very well on the easy part, right? And then now once you're done with your easy part, you spend 15 minutes on the easy part, right? And then you have to go on your relatively easy. What are the skills you need to learn, right? For example, I'm very good with arithmetic. I can add numbers, I can multiply, I can divide, but my algebra is not that great. When I have x squared on this side, I don't know how to take a square root. It's not easy for me, right? How do I do that, right? Then you have to learn to do things that will make that algebra easy. Because you already know arithmetics, you know how to add, you know how to multiply, you know how to divide, right? Now you go to the next level, right? Let me learn some algebra there, right? Let me learn how to, rather than adding 1 plus 2, how can I add x plus y, right? How can I solve an equation that has an x and y, right? That is still, it's 1 plus 2, you know how to do it. X plus y, you're just having a hard time, learn, right? That's relatively easy for you. Then comes, trigonometry. Oh man, I can't deal with the sine and cosine. Oh, those are, I don't know my Pythagoras theorem. Sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. Oh, that's not easy for me. Oh, no. Okay, so then do the easy ones. Go to the relatively easy ones, right? Then you try to master. You try to get like a 95% on the relatively easy one. That will take you from 60 to 75, right? Work hard on the relatively easy. You take the relatively easy, send it back to the easy. Then what is the next thing that you need to do? Work on things that are relatively hard. Try to move that guy, the relatively hard guy, that your trigonometry, that your integration, that your derivatives, move it to relatively easy. What are the things that you need to do? If you have to spend an hour a day, right? Spend an hour a day. Learn derivatives every single day. Read all the trigonometric theorems, reciprocal identities, all identities that read it every single day, revise them every single day, to talk to yourself, talk to somebody, ask somebody who knows this, right? Move that relatively hard into relatively easy. If you take care of these, ladies and gentlemen, you will have 95. If you have the willpower, that is where it comes in. That I will only focus on this one 100% every single day, every single minute, right? I'm not going to get distracted. I need to move my relatively easy into the easy. I need to move my relatively hard into the relatively easy. And if you can do that, you will get 90. How do you know you're getting a 90? Now pick up one of your old exams, right? How do you know which is easy? If you're like, I don't know what is easy for me. I don't know what is relatively easy for me. I don't know what is relatively hard for me. Go talk to your teacher. If you have a sibling, older siblings, right? If your parents are educated, right? Or take an exam, look at your midterm, look at your half previous exam, see where you missed, which was harder for you, right? Categorize them. right? Now see, okay, this is, I think I got 7 out of this. If you got a 7 out of 10, that is relatively easy for you. If you got a 4 or 5, right, that is what relatively hard. If you decide, okay, if you got a 1 or 2, that is hard. The ones that you gave up are the I don't have time, right? I don't have patience, I don't have persistence, right? You have to move that to, again, you have to learn to move all of these things to the easy category, but that takes some time, right? So look at your old exams, right? Look at them, which ones you got 9 or 10, 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Those are easy, categorize them. Look at the ones that you got like a 7 and 8, right? They're 7 and 8, they're relatively easy, or 6, 7, 8, relatively easy. See what you need to do to fix that to a 10. Maybe you missed a minus, you did some silly mistake, you were not careful, you did some crazy things, you're not paying attention, you're not being mindful there, right? You move that there and make sure things that got you will not get you next time. Things that you got 3, 4 on, right? Things that you got 3, 4 on, how do I move it to the relatively easy part? What do you need? Oh, I forgot my trigonometric formula. Let me go and learn. It's very hard for me to memorize. Memorize it. I have a hard time memorizing. Write it 20 times. Write it 30 times. Whatever it takes, have that willpower. Have that winning attitude. My life is me. Am I going to spend 20 minutes watching a YouTube video that doesn't benefit me? Or am I going to spend 20 minutes of reading the same thing over 100 times? That will get me 5% on the exam. That will get me 5 marks on my exam. You got to choose. Now you have a choice. The life is in your hand. Do things that benefits you. Do things that will help you in your life, right? That's all it is. It's divide and conquer. All right. So I think I've got into way too much of time. So let me just quickly wrap it up, and then maybe if you have another time, we will do it. We'll do it some other time. So a couple of things in here, right? You need to approach the exam with a prepared mind. I'm sure many of you had this experience, right? You feel like you're prepared, you go to the exam, right? And then you read a question, you sweat like crazy. Oh, I don't know how to do this. I thought I'm prepared. I don't know how to do this. I'm not doing well. Oh, this is very hard. I'm not going to do well. My parents are going to scold me. My teacher is going to be upset. Oh, all these emotions goes through in our mind, right? If you're prepared, you need to prepare for the best. You need to prepare for the worst, right? You need to plan for the best and prepare for the worst, right? You need to be prepared. If you're prepared, you will not have the exam anxiety. If you don't have the anxiety, you can do very well. The anxiety is the big hurdle, right, for critical thinking. When you're anxious, we are not going to think very freely, right? So you need to have the prepared mind. You need to have the winning mindset. You need to do the exam like you're going to enjoy the exam, right? I think when I was doing this last time, somebody was saying, when we think of a score, we think of a cricket score, right? And that somebody was saying that earlier. So it's like that. So what you need to do is, somebody throws a ball. I don't play cricket. I'm sorry. You need to learn. You need to have the attitude. How do I get a boundary? How do I get a 6 on every single ball, right? You need to feel like enjoy the exam, right? That is what you need to focus yourself on, right? So, as I said before, you need to have the objectives in your life. Your objective is to go from 60 to 95, and you need to test it every single time. So what do I do that? How do I do that? Let's just say I'm studying 45 minutes a day, every single day. You pick up the previous exam, you got a 60. Now you work on it every single day. You identify what is easy, what is relatively easy, what is relatively hard, what is really hard, right? You move the bins up and up, and then try to fill those gaps, right? Right? Move on, move along, and then and see where you are next week. Fill it in. Next week, you will get 70. You will move from 60 to 70. If that is not moving in, right? You got to find a different strategy. Whatever you're doing is not working. That 40 minutes is not enough. You're so much stressed. You have a lot of things on your mind. You're not doing things that needs to be done, right? Get out of that mindset. Whatever that worries you, put it away. Don't worry about what others are saying. Don't compare only yourself. You're not progressing enough, right? So then you got it from 60 to 70, right? That's your goal. 10 marks. All I'm asking you in a week is 10. Next week, make that 70 to 75. The week after, make that 75 to 80. Do what you need to do for the whole. You have a whole week. You have like 6 to 10 hours a week. Move it up. one step at a time, one step at a time, right? One step at a time. Identify what is easy, what is relatively easy, what loses you, what you're losing a score on, fill in the gaps, move up, fill in the gaps, move up. 60 to 70, 70 to 75, 70 to 80, 75 to 80, 80 to 85, 85 to 90, 90 to 95. That's 6-7 weeks, you can do that. For that, again, I think I'm repeating myself 100 times. I think it is worth repeating. Willpower. Things that you will do, things that you choose not to do. Think of your fasting. I know I think we have a lot of folks here who knows about fasting, right? Next 60 days, fast it. No media fasting, right? Next 60 days, fast it. You will, after 60 days, you can do whatever you can do, right? After 60 days, you do whatever you can do. So remember, NASA sent a man to the moon purely by laser focusing, right? We take measured risks, right? Make sure you don't leave any stones unturned, right? You got to do what you got to do. You got to cross your T's, dot your I's, every single step with that conviction. You can do that. So now, as I said before, measure what matters. Take the exam, measure your score. If you're moving in the right trajectory, move on. If you're not, then do what you need to do, move on. All right. I think I don't have too much of time, so I'll quickly, I think there are some strategies in here. I think I'll come back to it maybe some other time. We don't have time to go all of these today. Siddiq, is it time to stop, or do we have a few more minutes, or where are we?
Yeah, it's around 8:30. So maybe you can take around some 10-20, pretty much 10 minutes to summarize it.
Wrap it
then
up.
we can go for a Q&A.
Okay. Well, I'll wrap it up in 10 minutes and then we will move on. Anyway, I felt like to share a few things. Okay, let's take a look at some of the studying strategies, right? Let's take a look at some of the study strategies, right? So now, what is the difference between a struggling student and an excelling student, right? Someone who is doing excellently and someone who is struggling, right? So the student who excels, right? In the first grade, he learned almost 90%. Second grade, he learned 90%. Third grade, he learned 90%. He retains them, right? He retains them at every single step, right? And that's a student he keep on excelling. On the other hand, if you look at the students who are struggling, right? The first year, when he was in the first grade, he learned only about 80% and he missed the 20%, right? Then what happens, because he did not learn that 20%, in the second grade, some of the things depend on the 20%, right? And then he's also not able to follow that, right? So now what happens, this 20 compounds into 30, 35 in the second grade, right? And the 30, 35 compounds into 40, 45 in the third grade. And then it compounds into 60, 65, 70, 75. Eventually, he feels he's lost, right? So the reason because someone is struggling is not because he's not smart. It's not because that he's not dumb, right? It's just that the prior knowledge that he was supposed to gain did not have a good understanding of the prior knowledge, or what we call prerequisite knowledge, right? And so he has no clue what he's doing in the consecutive years, right? That is the main difference between the struggling students and the successful students. So that is why it's important to make sure we cross our T's, as we say in English, right? Cross our T's and dot your I's, right? So we need to make sure we, even if we feel it's not important, even if you feel it's not a big deal, you need to make sure you have a decent understanding of everything that is being taught, especially on a subject like math, subject like math or science, right? Maybe, history, yeah, probably we can deal with it, right? If you're talking about American history, I don't need to know Indian history to learn about the American history, right? So maybe we can do well. If you're talking about the essay writing, I don't need to know about computers to write an essay about 18th century, right? So we can do that. So, but on the math, you have to know addition to do well in integration. You have to know multiplication to do well in algebra, right? So if you're not good at multiplication, it's going to get you in algebra, right? So if you make sure that there are no gaps, right, when you study them. And there is something called, learn like a painting. What is a learn like a painting? I don't know how many of you painted there. When you paint, right, you're not going to completely cover when you paint it the first time. What happens is, usually when you paint, there are some patches here and there, as you see in the picture, right? Then you got to paint it again, all over again, right? To make sure that you fill in all the dots, or all the spots that you missed, right? So you got to, studying is like this. You read one time, or you listen one time. By reading and listening, they're all passive learning. They're not active learning. Active learning is, we'll come back to in a moment what active learning is, right? So you have to learn like a painting. So in the passive learning, if you're not going to be able to understand completely the first time, you got to read the second time and try to summarize it within you. Talk to yourself. Okay, this. Okay. Try to make up a story, right? Oh, this. Oh, okay, it moves from here to there. Oh, it's like so when the cosine squared theta comes in, okay, I have to treat like him. When the sine squared theta is there, I have to do this way. You try to engage yourself. Try to engage yourself, and then you feel like, oh, what do I do when I have a tan theta? Oh, now let me go back and read again, right? So if you identify your gaps and then try to fill in the gaps, so learn like a painting. And then another way to fill in the gaps is what we call reciprocal learning. Is rather than just reading. So the reciprocal learning is active learning, by the way. Rather than reading and listening to a teacher, now whatever you learned, discuss with somebody else, right? I'm sure you have a friend in your class, you have a friend in your school, or maybe your neighbors, wherever you go to, talk to them. Hey, how do I deal with this? Let me give you the summary of what I've learned today. What do you think of this, right? Just talk to yourself. When you talk to yourself, that is when and the brain organizes the information, and it stores the information in a more organized way. And whenever you need it, it brings it back, because that's the active learning. When you talk to somebody else, what you learn, it's not a passive learning. It's not like listening. It's not like watching. When you talk now, that's active learning. Your brain now puts so much emphasis in trying to understand that, not only trying to understand it, trying to organize it, and then it stores in a more permanent storage than a passive learning, right? So the reciprocal learning is talking to somebody, with a peer, pairing with somebody else, just to summary what you've done. It could be your mom. It doesn't matter. Just, just a mom or dad, right? Hey, stay here, spend some time with me. Let me read it. Let me summarize what I read to you. Can you just tell me what I made a mistake, right? By doing this, you will have a better way of filling in the gaps. Then you get into this active learning. And then, we say in mathematics, there is, I tell my students every single semester, there's a saying, I think they say it's a Chinese proverb or Indian proverb, I'm not sure. We say, I hear, I forget. When you hear, if you're not hearing many times, you tend to forget. That is what happens when you listen to a teacher, right? If you're not revising what the teacher is telling you, that's a passive learning, you're going to forget. I see, I remember. When you see things, it's better than hearing, because now you have some visual interpretation, right? You're seeing things visually. Our brain understands or retains the information in a much better way than the hearing, right? Then you try to remember, right? But you may not have a good understanding still. To have a good understanding, you need to do it. So in your case, you have to things that you keep on forgetting, you got to keep writing them, right? You got to keep write them. If it doesn't work at least write them one time, write the summary, right? If you don't have somebody to talk to yourself. No, take a notepad, right? Okay, what I have learned. Okay, so sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is equal to 1. What about 1 plus tan squared theta? Oh, I don't know now. Let me go back and look at the book, right? Then fill in the gaps. Okay, those are the gaps. Those are things that I'm having a hard time. Let me go back and focus on those, right? So you have to move from passive learning into active learning by talking to somebody, right? Or by talking to yourself, or keep writing them down. You got to engage yourself in learning. And those are the important things. Well, anyway, we usually do this. Let me tell you again, I think I've told you this before. I've told you this multiple times. Everyone is smart, right? Never ever think, I'm not smart. I'm not, I cannot do this. I don't do well in the exams, right? There is nothing like that, right? There is nothing like that. Everyone can do very well. And as I was saying earlier, visual learning, right? Try to, if you have a hard time putting the informations together, make a Venn diagram, scribble something, draw something, put the information in a drawing way, or make a story, right? Make a story out of this, right? Do something like this that will help you there. So that's about the learning in the summary. Now let me quickly go into the exam preparation, right? How do you prepare the exam? Number one, please never study at the last minute. I tell my students, last minute studying is a sure way of failing a class, right? Last minute studying is a sure way of failing a class. When you have to prepare the exam, the day before the exam, you have to be calm and quiet, and you have to have your peak performance. You have to be at your peak performance. So to do that, you need to have your note cards, have your summary, whatever that you have, the summary highlighting in the book, whatever that you did with your active learning, all the pictures that you made from the learning, every chapter that you have a story, every chapter that you have a picture, every formula that you learn, right? Whatever that you have note card, right? You only have to revise it. Don't just sit and revise. Take that piece of paper, just walk around, just move around, keep on walking, keep on revising them. Revision is the important thing the day before the exam. And you have to sleep. You have to sleep well the night before. I don't know a single student. I've taught over 5,000 students in my life. Some of them are doing really, really well. Some of them are very, very well. Some of them are doctors. Some of them are engineers. Some of them are in high level positions, politicians, all kind of people. I don't know a single student who studied the last minute and became a top student. I don't know a single student who got 100 on the exam by not sleeping the night before. You have to have at least 8 hours of sleep the night before, right? If you don't have a sleep, your brain cannot think. You will not have a critical thinking. You will not be able to recollect the information. The brain needs that restoration time. The brain needs that rest time to be ready to tackle all the problem that comes of you. If you don't sleep, that is when you make a sleep mistake. Minus become plus become minus. You don't recognize your own handwriting. You mess it up. You lose the easy ones also, right? So sleeping is absolutely, there's a ton of research has been done. Sleep is the absolute important thing to do well in the exam. Third thing, never go to the exam in the empty stomach, right? Never go to the exam in the empty stomach. You have to eat well, right? And if possible, exercise. If nothing, those who pray, it's a good thing. Please feel free to pray. If you don't, even if you're praying, right, try to do some meditation. If nothing works out, at least don't do anything else, right? Just breathe in, breathe out for 2 to 3 minutes. Just do a walk, right? Just do a walk. For example, on the day of the exam, if you're going in the shuttle, or if you're even going by the car, wherever you go, just get down like a mile before or a half a mile before. Just walk to the exam, just think it through, whatever is going to happen, right? Whatever you have studied, just think it through, walk. It's very good because our brain needs 2 things, sugar and oxygen, right? Our brain gets excited with the dopamine and sugar and oxygen. When you have something sugary, our brain is so happy. When you have a good oxygen, our brain is so happy. So, treat yourself and have a good amount of oxygen, right? For that, do some exercise that will get you to your brain, that will keep you more active, that will bring all the learning good, critical thinking in yours, right? So pray or meditate, eat well, do some exercise, study, sleep, and repeat the whole process, right? Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, right? And then on the exam time, you have to go to the exam early. You cannot afford to be late. You are late, you're anxious, your anxiety is going to kick in, you're tense, you're stressed out. You're not going to do well in the stressed out moment, right? You won't be able to think clearly. You won't be able to think through clearly. You won't be able to recollect the information properly. You're going to forget your formulas. You're going to forget all kind of crazy things. You're going to make a big mess out of there. So go to an exam an hour early, and not only that, one before that, right? On the day before the exam, if possible, right? At least 2 days before the exam, if possible, in a room, right, in your house. It does not have to be a room. Wherever you sit, assume yourself you're sitting in an exam hall, right? imagine that you're in an exam hall in front of a supervisor, right? And then try to take the exam as if you're taking the exam. That will help you to take your anxiety away, exam anxiety away, right? That is very, very important. If you know, I'm sure you know this, right? When you do things the second time or the third time, things are easy for you because you know you have gone through the emotions, right? You've gone through the emotions, things are easy for you. So you will do well. So have, you know, do a simulation, right? Do a simulation among yourself that you're sitting in the exam, you're just recollecting the information, you're doing the exam, and copy paste. Do the same thing over there. Go to the exam if possible. If they let you in, go sit in your table. Don't do anything. Just breathing exercise. Just revise it, right? Just calm yourself down. Stay nearby. And most importantly, do not talk to anybody else before the exam. Some guy, you know, you think you prepared. Someone is going to come and ask you this question. Hey, did you study this? Oh, I did not study this. Oh, did you study that? Oh, this is good. This is a very important question. This is going to be the exam. That fear, that anxiety is going to make you feel stressed, and that will not, you can't do anything anymore, right? You're done. You already did what you need to do. You moved all the hard ones into easy bin, right? You did whatever you can do. Now, whatever you have in your capacity, you have to bring the best out of you by listening to your body, by listening to your neighbor, thinking, oh, you did not study this, you did not study that. It's not going to be helpful for you. That's not going to get you. That's going to only make things worse for you. If someone come and talk to you, you tell them, hey, okay, you tell them, you talk to him about, you know, some fun things, right? If he talks about the exam, you know what? I don't want to talk about the exam. I think I'm ready. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I wish you the best. I wish you the best. If nothing works out, just go sit in one corner, breathe in, breathe out, nothing else. Breathe in, focus on your breathe out. If possible, be careful these days. You know, I used to pray, you know, before the exam, I used to pray outside. You know, if I have to 5-10 minutes, you know, just before the exam, I used to pray. But I think these days, I don't know how things are in India. Be careful. But I think there's nothing wrong in asking a teacher, is it okay to pray outside in a calm and quiet place? If they let you pray, if that's not possible, just, you know, think of something good, right? Think of something that makes you feel good, that makes you feel wonderful. Think, you know, a good friend that you talk to him, have a good feeling, you will do well. On the exam, how do you do the exam, right? Now, here's the most important thing on the exam. You got to read all the questions. Do not start the exam without reading all the questions, right? You must and you should read all the questions. And categorize the questions in 3 categories. Do the ones that are easy for you. Then go on the relatively easy. Then go on the relatively hard. Then go on the really, really hard one, right? If you have time. If you don't have time, then it's okay, right? But this is from a teacher psychology. This is very important. From a teacher psychology, right? When we grade, it's not just me. Pretty much most of my colleagues, you know, I have hundreds of colleagues, right? When we see someone scoring 10 out of 10 in the first 3 questions, we already made up our mind. This is a smart kid. This is a hardworking kid. This is a wonderful kid, right? She or he can do very well, right? Then from now on, we're not going to nitpick on every single, oh, how did he do? How did she do? How did no? If you get a 10 out of 10 in the first 3 problems consistently, that means you're already established as a smart kid, right? Then what happens from that point onwards is, now we're going to say, well, I think he got the answer correct. Okay, I think he got it. And then we just look at this. If it's overall correct, you get another 10. And then you look at the next one. If the answer is wrong, oh, this is how come this kid did really well in the first 3-4 problems. Why did he mess up? Let me see if I can give him a partial credit, right? Then we give you like it depends on how you did. We give you 7 or 5. So now you make the teacher, the grader, work for you, because he or she is on your side now, because you establish yourself that you are a student. That is important. So the first 3, don't go in the order. First 3 solutions, first 3 answers, you should and you must work hard to get a 10 out of 10. You need to establish, you need to tell the teacher, the grader, that you are an A student. How do you do that? By doing this. Then he or she, the grading, is on your side. She is going to advocate for you by giving you, this is a smart kid, he got a 10 out of 10. How come? Maybe he messed up something, he made a silly mistake, but he knows what he's doing. She knows what she's doing. Let me give him some extra credit, right? You got to do that. And then once you're done with that one, go to the relatively easy one, then go to the hard one. And then things that you don't know, right? As I was things that you don't know, what do you do? You should not, if you have time, by the way, never, ever, never, let me repeat this 100 times. Never, ever leave the exam hall early. Never, never do that. If you have time, sit there until not the last minute, last second. When the examiner comes and asks you for the exam, that's the only time you give it to him. Or he says, time's up, that's the only time you get out and do this. Even if you don't know anything, I would say take a nap for 10 minutes and wake up and do it again. If that's allowed. I'm not sure if that's allowed or not. If that's allowed, please do that, right? You never leave the exam early. Now, here's what you need to do on the things that you absolutely have no clue. For example, let's just say you have no clue about a question, right? Try to write something. Try to write something. Try to write in a very generalized way. Let's just say they ask about how did this particular king do? You have no clue about the king, right? But now this is where you use your critical thinking. What usually the kings do? They say, oh, they developed agriculture, they build the buildings, right? They were nice to people, they were promoting social justice, they were promoting they were collecting less taxes, right? These are things that the kings do, right? You just write that down. It doesn't matter whatever the name of the king is, right? Whether it's Asoka or whether it's the Sastra, whatever that is, I don't care who the name of the king is, whether it's the Benjamin Franklin, whether it is the Asoka, whether it is the Aurangzeb or Akbar, Babur, they all did the same thing, right? So now try to learn something. I'm not saying you're going to get a 10 out of 10, but you will get at least 4 out of 10. 4 is better than nothing, right? That is the winning attitude. So if you approach this, you'll be okay. Never leave the exam early. And the third most important thing, I'll stop it with this one, is that never have anything scheduled after the exam. Don't have any appointment after the exam, because that is going to stress you. Oh, I have to finish the exam in time. Otherwise, I have to go to the next work. It's important. It's important. Important. Don't do that. On the exam day, if it's a very, very important exam, have the rest of the day empty. That will help you not to be stressed out on the exam time, right? If you possible, try to have 2-3 hours after the exam empty. You have no appointments, you have no schedule, nothing whatsoever. So therefore you feel relaxed that I don't have to do, after the exam is over, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. Have that free mentality. You will do well in the exam. And I will stop it here, ladies and gentlemen. I will just say quickly again, one last thing. I'll happy to answer any of your questions. I'll again say this. Real success requires 100% of your effort, energy, and time, and a strategy, right? Be smart. You don't have to be, I think I'll close with this one thing. There's one saying in Tamil, vetri betra manidharellam buddhisali illai, buddhisali manidharellam vetri bettradillai. So if I translate them in English, right? All the successful people are not necessarily smart people. All the smart people are not necessarily successful. What is the worst is being a smart and not successful. That gap is one and only because of the attitude. That gap is one and only because of the willpower, right? If you have the willpower, if you have the successful attitude, if you can see things that need to be done, if you can focus it, you don't have to be smart to be successful, right? As long as you have what it takes, you have the willpower, you can do that. I wish you all the best, and I think I will stop it right here. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Sorry, it took too long, but I think I wanted to share things that I wanted to share to make sure that you have the comprehensive understanding where it comes from. Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor. And it's a nice session. Like, students will be benefited. So if you have any questions and queries, you can raise your hand. So we will provide you an unmute option so that you can talk to a professor. So raise your hand for your questions. Professor here to answer you. Sayyida Safiya, okay, and Laiba, okay, yeah. So we'll go one by one. Sayyida Safiya, you can ask the question.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Yes.
What if we get 3 out of 10 in the exam?
What if you get what is your question, sweetie? How old are you?
I am 10 years old.
10 years old. What grade are you in?
I'm in 4th grade.
4th grade?
Yes.
MashaAllah, look at you. Wow. So you already feel like you need to be excellent. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, cool. So what is your question, sweetie?
You said if we get 4 out of 10, it's good. What if we get 3 out of 10 in a test?
You have to look at the exam, right? How do you make the 3 into 10? You have to work on moving that 3 to 10. What should you do? And what you should not do that will take you from 3 to 10. You have to work on that.
Study a lot.
You don't have to study a lot. You just have to study smart.
Okay, so Professor gave you a lot of tips. So even if you
Wonderful,
join later,
but by the way, let me say this, by asking the question, you already have the attitude to go from 3 to 10. That is more important than getting a 10.
Okay. Thank you,
okay.
sir.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you. Laiba, you can ask the question. So there is one question in the chat. Maybe I'll come to the chat later. Laiba, you can ask the question.
Sir, how can we speak English fluently?
That very good. I think that's a very good question, Laiba. What grade are you in, Laiba?
Sir, I'm 9th standard.
9th standard. Very good. So you're an English medium, right? Your English is already very good. Why do you need to do good? When I was in 9th grade, my English at that time was not very good. It was not. It was. I mean, I was in a Tamil medium. I was having a hard time with the English piece, but you are doing very well. So you should be doing wonderful with your English. You should not be worried about it. But anyway, that's kidding aside. I think you're doing very well. I think that comes with the practice. Probably, I think we had a session a long time ago on how to do how to speak English, right? Maybe we'll do some of the one in the future. How to speak English fluently. I mean, the simple answer is practice. Practice makes perfect.
Sir, I want to speak American accent.
Practice. So I would say listen, right? Listen and practice, right? Listen to American. Now we have ton of resources, right? Ton of resources on English. Even YouTube's have them. There are a ton of free of resources. Listen to them, practice, and listen to them, practice, and then try to emulate as best as possible. It comes with the practice. You can do
Sir,
it. But let me say this: you're already 80% there. Your English is almost as good as an American, so you're very good. I'm envious. I'm jealous of you. Let me put it this way: I'm jealous of you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Sir, you are a good mentor. I have inspired with your class, sir.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
glad.
you very much.
I'm glad. Alhamdulillah. I'm glad.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I hope one day you will inspire others. Right? I hope one day you will inspire
others. That is the purpose of the
goal.
program. Yeah, definitely. So it's like in wisdom, right? It's karpom karpipum. You learn, you teach others. So you also get motivated. Not only grow on the education, but one day you should inspire others by motivating like this.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. And next question.
Grade 5 Delhi Public School in Hyderabad. Sir, when I study, I'll not have focus on it. Like I'll be distracted many times. So how should I keep my distraction? How should I avoid my distraction?
Very good. So you distract with what? Can you distract with what, sweetie? Go ahead.
Okay. So just to answer the question. So when you start study, right, you're unable to concentrate it. You want to deviate from the studying. You want to, remove your eye from the books. Okay. So I would recommend you do some, some techniques. The people who prepare for UPSC examination, right, IAS, IPS examinations, they sit on the same place and studying for 8 to 10 hours. Okay. So without any deviation. So how they are doing is you study for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, maybe based on your capacity. Okay, then do some write activity. Okay, some read activity, and whatever you studied, right, you try to write it in some paper. Okay, and another some 10 to 15 minutes, right, you think what are the questions will be asked from this particular subject, or you try to solve example questions or exercise questions. Okay, so it is something like a kind of a brain mapping, which means you are not giving the continuous effort on your brain by doing this one activity. Okay, it happens to everyone. Okay, it's not a deficiency. Okay, it happens to me, it happens to professor. So to get a deviation, so what I would recommend, right, deviate from reading to write. Okay, and deviate from writing to answer the questions, okay, and deviate from, let's say, one subject to another subject. If you complete this, one cycle, right, then let's say 1.5 hour. Now if you study science, now you study English, okay, just go for a language. Now, once you're done with the language, you come back to your mathematics. So if you study different parts, then you will find, because the naturally brain is to deviate. It is not able to continuously one things like all along. So it expect for you to deviate it. So make the deviation from one activity to another activity by reading, listening, typing, writing, okay, and also by deviating from one subject to another subject. So this way you can cheat your brain. You cheat because your brain requested, or brain force you to change the activity which you are doing. So you can cheat your brain by changing the activity. So this way you can continuously able to focus and study. Let me tell you one more thing, okay. So assume like you are in a car, okay, so there is a driver, you sit on the back seat, okay, you travel from, let's say, one place to another place in a daytime, okay. So what you will do on the back seat, 1 hour, 2 hour, you see your phone and you see your sightseeing. After that, what happened to you? When you travel a car, there is a driver at the front, you at the back. What happened after 2 to 3 hours? I'm just asking you. You can answer. You might probably sleep, right? Okay, you are sleeping, but the driver is not sleeping. Even if the journey for a 10 hours ride, driver won't sleep. Why driver won't sleep?
Sir, because he has to focus on the driving, or else.
Yeah. So driver has
Accident.
a responsibility to carry you from one place to another place, responsibility to reach the destination. So it is his responsibility. Likewise, when you study, right, if you think the studying is another responsibility, kind of a sitting on the back seat of the car, you will get a sleep, you will get deviated. If you think you are on the driver's seat, okay, you are driving a car because you are studying for your purpose, your growth. So if you think in that way, you won't get deviated. Abdul Kalam, former president of India, Dr. Abdul Kalam said, dream is not something which comes on the sleep. Dream makes you not to sleep. So that is a dream. And he used to ask the people to dream. So likewise, if you have the trust, so if you have your ambition, if you have a goal, if you stick on your goal, right, you won't sleep actually. Even during the sleep time, you won't sleep. Okay. So keep that in mind. I'm going to achieve something. It's not that I'm going to study, I'm getting some mark. No, I'm building my career. I'm building my career. I want to become. You have a lot of wishes, and there are a lot of barriers you have to break. Okay, so if you think in that in your mind, definitely the sleep won't come to you, as our former president says. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Yeah, walaikum
I
salam.
have two questions. So
Yeah.
basically, the first one is when you have like 10 subjects to study, and then you have to revise each one of them, like to get it into your brain. How can you like revise the maybe 20 topics in one subject and like those 10 subjects like in a very nearby spacing?
So professor, you can answer. Audio is not.
Thank you.
Professor.
Very
Yeah.
good question. Yeah, that's a very good and excellent question. I think that's what we often go through, right? When you have 3 things to do, it's easy to do. When you have 10 things to do, how do you do it, right? This is where your organization skills are very important, right? You need to. This is when there are many techniques. There are many techniques, but let me share a few of them. You got to focus one at a time, right? They say 1,000 miles starts with the 1 step, right? How to eat an elephant? You start with the 1 bite, right? So you got to start with the 1, and then you master and make a summary, move on. Master, make a summary, move on. Master, make a summary, move on. Then you go back and revise again. Every 3 revise again, right? And then you start the new one. So you got to keep on add 1 at a time, right? And you make sure if that is important, you make sure you finish it. Then you move on. This is where people have index cards. I don't know if they you will have usually an index card of summary with you, right? You write them down, and then do that way. This is also the way to study 10 different steps in a very short period of time is to you have to categorize them, whether this comes into the memorization category or comes into the critical thinking category and so on, right? So then you kind of bin them, you kind of alternate. So don't study the memorizing part, like all the memorizing part, like back to back, right? You study something like a memorization for about 30-45 minutes, right? And then take a break. Then you go back to one that is like applying part, applying aspects, analyzing aspects, right? Then you go back to the memorizing. Then you go back to the applications, right? So for example, let me give you an example. History, math, and then English, and then go back to science, then social studies, go back to math. So you kind of have to alternate to have that to get the maximized or to get the peak performance. But every single step of the time, don't let your anxiety, don't let your stress, I have to study this much. Don't let that not push you, try to go faster and then not learn the things properly. Even if you have 100 things to do, right? Prioritize the most important things, right? And that is where the question banks are helpful. You look at the question banks, see, for example, take a look at the previous 5-year question banks. You will identify the top most important topics that you need to learn, right? Then you just to learn them. That is your top priority, because that is going to get you 50% of the 50% of the exam, right? That is your top priority. So you feel that, and then once you're comfortable with that, now you go tackle the remaining 50% and then categorize them, move on one at a time. But don't try to memorize don't try to study English, social studies, history, English, social studies, history on whole day, because that's all about memory. You're not going to be able to recollect the information. Another good thing is take a nap. Every single 15 minutes or 30, every single 3 hours, take a nap. Nap is a wonderful thing for a brain to organize the information that we learn, right? Take a nap. If you have a habit of praying, pray like every 1 hour, or like do some meditation. Go for like after 45 minutes, go for a walk. Just if you can run, just run, right? Talk to somebody, like if you're after like a couple of hours, give yourself a break. Eat something that you like. Talk to some friend or talk to some loved ones, right? Don't try to do the same thing, then it's going to put you in the boring position. Our mind will start to pay attention. You got to keep on change things, right? You got to keep on change things and then start to mix and match. But priority is very important. Prioritize the out of the 20 topics, prioritize the 10 topics, 5 topics, complete that first, do on every one of the subject, alternate, and then take a nap, take exercise, and then maybe eat something nice, eat something good, but don't eat something like too full. Then you don't feel like studying, right? Then you'll be okay.
Yes, sir. And my second question was that I was watching a video on geniuses, and then it was said that they can study continuously for 4 to 5 hours without getting tired. So how can you develop yourself into that level in which you can go?
That's a high level. It is possible. It is possible, but that requires a high level of willpower. That requires a high level of.
So you can develop into that.
Yeah, that is a different level, but that requires I'm sure. Let me tell you since you asked me, right? When I was taking my IIT exam, I took the exam and I came back. Right, I was in the hospital for a week.
Yeah, hospital for a week. Yeah,
I was in the hospital for a week.
So Pramod, studied for JAM examination. That's for MSc admission in IIT Madras. He took All India 3rd rank. After the exam, right? He's admitted for 1 week.
One whole week. Welcome to the club. But that requires that I didn't sleep properly. I didn't eat properly. Yeah. That's a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. But my determination, my passion, my dedication, trumped. I don't care. Right? I was focused on. I know what my limits are. I was pushing my limits. But that requires a high level of dedication, high level of motivation, high level of passion. But if you can develop that, you are the next. You're the awesome. If you ask Steve Jobs, right? If you ask Elon Musk, right? These guys hardly sleep because they are in that level. But that requires a whole different scenario. Maybe we'll do one topic on that one some other time. But the main thing is passion and persistence and dedication. How much you're willing to do. Yeah. But don't do that regularly, right? You only do that when you have to, when you don't have a choice. If that is the pivoting in your life, right? That's a make or break. Yes, you can push yourself, but for that, you need to be, your body and mind has to be convinced, have to travel the same path. You need to understand that is important for my life. My life depends on it, right? My life depends on it. If I fail on the IIT exam, my life is done, right? I would not be here today. I would be working in a somewhere shop. So I said, I left no stone unturned. I probably studied and studied and studied. And wherever I go, I carried my books with me. Wherever I went, whenever I was walking, I was going to the masjid for prayer. I was taking the book with me, like just reading it down. I was just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. People were even like criticizing me, but I guess, well, the criticizers, they're not doing well. I'm doing well, so I'm happy. Yeah, but it is possible, but that requires a high level. That's another level. Maybe one day we'll do something, a workshop on that.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So another question, like Redmi. Yeah, Mohammed. Yeah, go ahead. Mohammed, go ahead.
Yeah, how to prepare IELTS exam? Do you have any resources? Can you share me, because I'm preparing IELTS exam. I don't have a correct resources and the correct guidelines also. Can you guide me, please?
Actually,
Congrats.
Professor
Congrats.
did a GRE exam, I believe, like not IELTS.
I didn't have to do IELTS, but I did a GRE. But congrats, first of all, congrats. I'm glad that you're working to better your career. That's a wonderful opportunity. But there are, I think, nowadays, I think there are a ton of online resources. But it depends on, I would say, it depends on how much time you have, right? It depends. If you have a short on time, then you have to be careful, right? If you have plenty of time, so you need to know where you are, you need to where you need to go, right? That's what I keep on saying, right? Are you 30, you want to get to 90? Are you 70 or get to 90, right? There's a level of preparation is different, right? If you feel, objectives and key results, right? Assess yourself where you are, have a goal of where you need to be, and then based off of that, you have to choose your tools, right? If you don't have too much time, your exam is in like 3 weeks, yes, you have to have a different attitude, you have to have a different set of lifestyle. You have like exams in 3 months, you need to do differently. But these days, I mean, the first and the most important resources, there are a ton of online free exams.
Yeah.
Right.
There are online resources where there I know there are some
I think I'll let Siddiq share some of those resources. He has some access to it. But again, any resource is a good resource. Any online exam is a wonderful exam. Pick up the old exam, do it, and then see where the gaps are, right? Which one is easy, which one is not easy, which one is like no way I can do it, which one is like I can improve on it, categorize them and move. See, again, what I'm trying to say is there's no one size fits all. You need to know where you are, where you need to be, and then gradually, slowly move up, right? If you have 3 months, yes, you have time to move up slowly. If you don't have 3 months, you put everything, you tell everybody, hey, I'm deleting my Facebook, I'm deleting my WhatsApp, I'm deleting my Twitter, and then you tell everybody, hey, if you need something, call my mom. If it's important, or call my dad, he or she can call me, let me know, because my life is important for me. So you got to have that attitude is different. If you got it, it's a whole host of things. So for that, again, I need to, the best way, if you ask me to do, would be, if I were you, if you come to me an individual person, I would say, I would give you an exam. I would go through your exam. I would say, okay, Brother Muhammad, you are doing this well. You're doing this well. Let's take resources for this particular area. Let's take resources for this particular area. Let's focus on this particular area. I think this is very easy for you. So you need to identify that for yourself and be a mentor for yourself, and then have a plan. Stick to the plan. If the plan is, if you're improving on every single week, the plan is working. If it's not improving, there's an English saying, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is a definition of insanity. If whatever you're doing is not moving you up, you got to change it, because whatever you're doing is not working, right? So you got to look at where you are, where you need to be, have a plan, work with the plan, change the plan, move up until where you need to be.
Yeah, Jazakallah. And because lack of data is available, so that's why I'm little confused. That's why I'm asking.
I think Siddiq can send you some resources.
You just ping your WhatsApp number to me in the chat. Okay, I'll send you some of the app links. Okay.
Okay.
Or yep. Others, you can unmute and ask your questions. There are 3 people left. Okay. and we don't have much questions on. Okay. Yeah. Redmi 9i. Okay, you can unmute, and there is a Nazir. Okay, DSPN. So you can unmute and ask the question. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
So, I'm Sumaya. So, I'm very happy that I'm talking with you.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I'm from Iqra Academy, an Islamic school present in Karnataka.
MashaAllah, very good. I'm proud of you, and I'm so happy to have you talk to you. I'm proud of you. I mean, literally, I'm proud of you. I cannot share my proud. You know, when I see you guys, I feel more motivated. MashaAllah.
So, my question is, how can I get more marks in public exam?
I think that is purpose of all the the entire session. Maybe if you missed it, right, I'll ping you. You just ping me. I'll reply you by the recording session of this event. I think professor took all the way to 2 hours to explain you how to get very good marks in examination. I think that is the purpose of the entire session. Maybe if you join in middle, you can walk through the entire session. You just ping me in the chat. Okay, I'll give you the recorded link of this session. Then that will be really helpful.
What grade are you in, sweetie? Sumaya, what grade are you in?
9th standard.
9th standard. MashaAllah, you have one more. We have one more year. So again, as Brother Siddiq was saying, right? It's go back and watch. I don't know if you know Tamil. We have a ton of resources in Tamil. We are now trying to develop more resources in English. Do you know by any chance Tamil?
No.
No, sir.
No. Okay. So maybe we'll develop more resources, further inshallah in the future. But the summary is this. Summary is this. Take today. What do you do at the end of today? Go take the 10th exam. Look at the exam question paper, right? See if you have prerequisite knowledge. See where you are, right? Don't and then try to work your way towards the things you need to learn, things you need to move up. Work your way towards the exam. And I hope one day you guys will become IAS, IPS, judges, and then to lead the country.
Yes, sir. Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, barakallah feek.
So just to give a summary to get a more mark, right? First, increase your storytelling practice. Okay, so exam is all about giving an answer. Okay, answer will be a little bit one, or answer might be you may not sure on it. Okay, so it is like your story developing skill. Just improve it. Okay, and creative writing. How creatively you put your thoughts on the paper. Okay, so improve those skills. Okay, you start with any the story you like, the story book you like. Okay, in non-academic. Okay, you start with that one, then later move to your academics, whether it's mathematics or science or languages. Okay, so if you improve that particular skill, right, then your exam fear will go on. Okay, you won't get any fear because you get a full confidence. Like even if I know small idea, I can elaborate and put it on the paper. In a creative way. So if you get that level of confidence, right, then you start answering the known question, unknown question, and the partially known questions. Okay, then you have a very good comfort on your on the examinations. Like every day you have a lunch, you have a breakfast, how you eat the food. Likewise, you pretty much you'll be very comfortable with the examination. That comfortness, that confidence, right, that's take you through getting very high score. Okay, so develop your storytelling practice and creative writing practice. Okay, that helps actually. Just a summary, like professor shared a lot of tips. This is just a summary. Okay, just ping me in the chat. I'll give you the recorded link of this one. Okay.
So Brother Muhammad, Sister Shireen sent us some link for IELTS coaching program, mashallah. So that's a collective power. Look at that, mashallah.
Shireen ma'am, shared some of the stuffs. Okay, you guys, that's what I do. Just ping your WhatsApp number to me. I'll share whatever Shireen ma'am say. Share. Yep.
Yeah, I shared.
I couldn't see anything. You just there is a chat. Okay, there is a chat. You can share with me. I couldn't see your WhatsApp number. Okay, but anyhow, I'll share you the recorded link of this particular session to you on the chat. Okay, just note it down. Okay, and that is the one thing. 1 minute. And okay, any other question you can ask meanwhile to Professor? Any other questions you can ask? Okay, Mohammed, I got your number, and for everyone, right? I pasted the recorded session of the recorded YouTube link for this session, so you can go over it. Okay, Mohammed, I noted on your number. Maybe Mohammed, just can you tell me about yourself? Where you're from, which grade you are?
I'm from Chennai. I'm working as a
Chennai.
system administrator.
Okay, so you're working, right? Working professional.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll connect with you, Shireen ma'am. She's doing wonderful job in this skill development, the coaching, mentoring the students. Mashallah, ma'am can help you more. Okay, I'll connect with her. Okay, so is there any other questions? We can go ahead. Otherwise, it's around 9:30. We can wind it
Yeah,
up.
we don't want to take too much of your time.
Okay.
No, it
So
took
thank you
longer than
very much.
expected. Sorry, it took longer than expected. I think I got way too much, passionately got involved, I guess, and then end up spending too much of time. But I think we'll do more of these more often. The goal of this session is to keep ourselves high through education, right? And then be the best. Whomsoever we are, be the best is our goal, right? Educate ourselves and educate others is our goal. And I hope our future generations will have better mentors than us.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much.